Hi everybody, and welcome to my studio, or garage, doesn't matter. So, we're going to talk about a few things today. Intake manifolds, exhaust manifolds, pretty much. And why they're designed as they are, and what works and not works. So, the main subject of today is exhaust manifolds, because I think it's a bigger subject than the intakes. And with exhaust manifolds we see different designs, from standard stock manifolds to log manifolds and I don't know, some billet things and whatnot. So we have a few different options on the exhaust manifolds. But what does the exhaust manifold do? And that's the interesting thing to think about. And I think we're going to just scrape the surface a little bit today and see if we can understand the importance of different mods. But first off, I have to say that there's a lot of people, no, not a lot, but there's a few people, and you know who you are, that I really respect in a lot of ways, and you know what you're talking about. But sometimes, or occasionally, I see posts that are really confusing to me, because you know what you're talking about, and you have tested things and it doesn't work, and this works better, and I'm going to prove you wrong today. I'm sorry about that, but I think that your testing has been faulty in some ways. I don't know how or why, but today we're going to find out. All right. So here's the thing. Exhaust manifolds transports our very, very hot and fast gases from the engine out through the turbo and off to the air. And we need to transport this in the fastest and best and the most efficient way possible. I have a mosquito flying around here. What the fuck? Yeah, so exhaust manifolds. But before we talk about that, we need to understand how the exhaust gases work. And then we need to speak about camoverlap. On the OM 604, 605, 606, we don't have an issue with camoverlap. I can tell you that from the beginning. So this is not really applicable to our engines if we don't upgrade the cams heavily, like the FTO stage 2 cams or the KM cams and so on. But anyway, this is how an engine works and what we need to think about. And maybe we upgrade in the future, maybe we build another engine, MO4 or 2JZ or whatever engine that this is applicable to. So the cam overlaps is when we have two valves open at the same time from different cylinders and on different cycles. An engine works like this. It's really simple. In 2 revolutions, 720 degrees, we do all our 4 cycles. We have the suck, squeeze, bang, blow in 2 revolutions. And it doesn't matter how many cylinders we have. If we have 4 cylinders, 2 full rotations. 12 cylinders, 2 full rotations. That's how it works. And the cam overlap is more significant in an engine with more cylinders, because we do, if we talk about the bang sequence here, right? So there's a bang every 180 degrees. Every time we go half a revolution, 180 degrees, we have a bang on a 4-cylinder engine. So it's bang, 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 and so on. But when we go to 6-cylinder, it's not 180 degrees anymore. It's 120. So that's why they sound different. First of all, it's on a 1-cylinder you can hear the idle, boom, 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 right? On a 2-cylinder you hear it twice as much. 4-cylinder twice as much again. And the 6-cylinder, of course, may have 2 cylinders more, so it sounds smoother because you don't hear the pulses as much as you do in fewer cylinders. And if we go to 12-cylinder, then of course we cut the 6-cylinder in half, so it's 60 degrees between the cycles, and this makes it really problematic, because most of us guys, we use 6-cylinder engines, or maybe in the States 8-cylinder engines that we tune on, and the cam overlap is a bitch, because on a 4-cylinder that is the best engine for to not have cam overlap, because we have as much degrees as possible between our bangs. So we have 180 degrees, and we need to go down to 3-cylinder, 2-cylinder, 1-cylinder to have more, right? And say we have performance cams that are 280 degrees. Common performance cam in any petrol engine. 280 degrees. But between the bangs we have 180. Right? So then we have 100 degrees where another cylinder is open. And this is the cam overlap. That means in our 4-cylinder with an ignition sequence of 1342 that most 4-cylinders have, 1, 3, 4, 2, our cylinder number 2 is on its exhaust cycle, right? So the exhaust gas is coming out, but at the same time we have 50 degrees of opening time for cylinder number 1 on the exhaust side, and number 1 is closing its exhaust valve while it's opening its intake valve, and that means we have a lot of suction into this cylinder because it wants to get some air from the intake valve, right? But the exhaust valve is also open, and we have very hot, very fast gases coming out of cylinder number 2. And these gases will of course go through the manifold, through the turbo and out. But some gases will take the path of least resistance and go into cylinder number 1. And while we're diluting the fresh air and petrol or diesel in cylinder number 1, we lose power. And this is a real problem. So we can't really ignore this, and we can't say that, oh, this works and this don't work, and this is science, If the exhaust valve is open, it's open, period. There's no discussion about it. So we need to make our 180 degrees of sequence longer, and it's not really possible to do that, because if we change the cams, it's still going to be 180 degrees. It's whatever we do, it's 180 degrees if we don't pulse split. The turbo with 2 inlets, right? So if we run a divided manifold, we're gonna pair up the cylinders that are the furthest away from each other in this cycle sequence. And that means on a 4-cylinder we have 1, 3, 4, 2. So after 2 it's 1 again. So 2 and 1 is really close, right? And 1 and 3 is really close. So the furthest cylinder away from cylinder number 1 is 4. So we pair 1 and 4 together. Now we don't have 180 degrees. We have 360 degrees between the cycles. That means we can run the most angry cams we can find and still don't have cam overlap. That means the exhaust gases from number 1 and number 4 will all go through the turbo and make power. Also, let's say our 4-cylinder is a 2 liter. That means we have 500 cc per cylinder. If we put in 100 cc of hot exhaust gases into our cylinder, we can only use 400 cc of cylinder volume. With a divided manifold, this doesn't happen, because we have 360 degrees between the cycles and no cam overlap. So our 500 cc of cylinder is 500 cc of cylinder with no dilution. So this is how we build an engine that makes power and is efficient. When we go up the cylinders to 6-cylinder engines, we don't have 180 degrees, we have 120. So we have even more cam overlap with our fictionary 280 degree cams now. And the problem is bigger, and we have potentially more cylinders open, depending on the cam, of course. But this is a real issue, especially on a 6-cylinder engine. So we need to take the cylinders that are furthest away from each other in the ignition sequence and pair them together, so we can make our 120 degrees to 240. And 240 degrees and 280 cams, we still have cam overlap. But that's fucking good, we can live with that. It's okay because we have an inline engine. The V engines, different story. American, they have mostly, I would say most of them. If you have a cross-plane crank in your V8, you will probably have a little bit of problem splitting your cylinders, because you need 2 from one side of the engine and 2 from the other side. If you are running a flat plane crank V8, like a Ferrari V8 or similar, you don't have that problem. You have your 4 cylinders on one side that you can divide, and end of story. So the cross-plane guys, you have a little bit of issue, but as you can see on like Ford GT40 and cars like that, don't have turbo, but they do split the cylinders, and they have a big ass header that make this for them. But I think that's like the basis of it all. The exhaust manifold is much more than just a piece of cast iron or welded up tubes or whatever it is. It's so much more. We need to think about the exhaust gas velocity, we need to think about the cam overlap, we need to think about materials and heat expansions and placement of the turbo and whatnot. We need to think about a lot more than just bolting the turbo to the manifold. And for the 606 guys, some of you use the stock exhaust manifold, and we make a lot of power. Yeah, of course. You can make a lot of power with whatever you want. Will it last? Yeah, I know there's at least 50 guys, 100 guys that can answer that question, and that answer will be no. Um, because it's too much heat, everything is just fucked up. Because of one main reason really with the 606, that it's a 4-cylinder exhaust manifold with 2 cylinders added to it. And cylinder number 6 on a 6-cylinder engine already runs hot. So when you have a 4-cylinder manifold that's from cylinder number 1 to 4 and number 5 and 6 is added on, of course you will have more heat issues with that. But each on their own, you know, if it works for you, happy days. But a real manifold is better. Your turbo gonna spool faster, you're gonna have less heat, more power, everything's gonna be better. And as I said, we don't really have the problem with cam overlap, so we can do what the fuck we want, but it's not a bad thing to have a divided manifold, and it's not a bad thing to have a divided turbo. We just have to check so the specs are correct. And to my friends that I really respect and that has tested some of this and say some opposite shit, I think something was out of spec, and end of story. So, have we learned anything today about how the hot side of the engine works? Maybe. I'm just blabbing along, you know, and for me it's pretty, you know, I know it, so for me it's easy, and I just think, why don't everybody think about this? And I try to do these videos so everybody can understand, and I hope you do, even though my English is, yeah, you know, Swinglish. So, let's talk about intake manifolds then. Yeah, I don't know. There's a company that do decent products. I've been pleasantly surprised by their products. I will not say that they are the best, but they are far from the worst. And then all of a sudden they made an intake manifold for a 606 that is just mind-blowingly bad. And for me, I think it was a reaction. You know, that's no action without reaction, that some very smart guy said once. And I think there was an action from someone that made this reaction. But we can't just watch, you know, I mean, we're gonna watch me on YouTube and know that I'm right. But just because it's on YouTube, it doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean it's correct or right in any way. So these short runner intakes, what the fuck? Just stop it. Then we have the other guys that made this stainless intake. I think that's a really good product, and I'm not associated to them in any way, and I don't give a shit if they sell or not. But we are several people on the Facebook that have asked for pictures inside the plenum, and we got none. So I can imagine there are no full radios, what the fuck you call them, I don't know, fullradiotratta in Swedish, what the fuck. You need to have the entry to the runners in a full radius, you know, shit. thing. And if you don't have that, and if you don't have a divider inside your intake, it's not working, you know. Then why not use original? Original is really good on the 606. You will never ever have more power than the original stock intake manifold can supply. But I mean, modifying is our thing, right? So of course we want a bling intake, but an intake needs a divider. That's a wall that goes halfway up on the intake, so the air can't rush into the open cylinder. You know, the cylinder with the intake valve open. That's not going to happen. So we have a wall inside, and on that wall we have a radius. Otherwise we get screams. But people that build intake manifolds, they know this. You should not know this. You bolt your shit on and it works. But we are several people that have asked for pictures and we got none. So the runners need to be full radius from the plenum, and it needs to be a divider wall inside there. And I think I said in a comment on Facebook that if they were built in the correct way and molded in plastic, I would buy one. They are really cool, they look good, they are designed in a very smart way, and I like them. But I hope they'll do their homework and show us some pictures. So that's a little bit about the intake, you know, that it can't just, air can never turn 90 degrees. That's like the first lesson you need to learn. And if your plenum is a box, the air will use a very minor portion of this area because it can't turn 90 degrees, period. So every 90 degree corner, the air will do a radius. So we lose space everywhere where we have 90 degrees. And so that, I mean, that's why people build real plenum intakes from tubing, because the tube has a radius and you can maximize your area. And this is also why you need the inlet to the runners to be a full radius cone thing, because the air that hits this plate where the runners go will just be confused, and it will be turbulence, and it will create a full radius itself there when it goes into the runner, and that means the runner is going to be a lot smaller than the actual size. So this is what we do when we build intakes, that we think about these things so you don't have to. You can just bolt the shit on and it works, and it works good. I mean, everything works. If you put your own coffee maker as an intake, it will work. For how long? Yeah, I don't know, but it will work. Everything works, but it should work good, because you pay good money for this. Just let that sink in. You are paying, and if you pay for shit on a stick dipped in gold, you're not going to be happy for very long. So we need to buy the good products, and the Polish casted manifolds, exhaust manifolds, is a really good product. I'm not associated to them in any way, and my company have lived on making exhaust manifolds for many years. And I mean, of course a tubular reed manifold is better, but for the money, yeah, sure. It's like 400 euros or something. It's fucking incredible. Buy it. Good value for your money, because everything is fucking expensive. And I'm really sorry that all the transports in the world goes through Ukraine, and that's why everything goes up in price. But apparently the most busy highways in the world are right there. And you know, this is the time where we need to hold our money tight. It's my money. It's not anyone else, you know. And if I want to put them in what I love, I need to do that with care. And I need to read the comments. Like this really good looking, well designed intake manifold in stainless steel. You know, that's, just read the comments. And if more than one guy say, hey, do you have pictures from the inside? Is it like this? Is it like this? Have you done your homework? And they don't respond on that, and they don't send any pictures. Maybe we can wait a little bit, you know. We can send them a message and say, I really want your intake, but I want it done real. And maybe they provide a picture, and maybe it's already perfect, but they have just not had the time to get pictures for us, right? We don't know that, but we need to be a little bit careful so we can get a product that we deserve for the money we pay. And don't use single entry turbos. Don't use quick spool valves, for God's sake. I forgot this when I talked about this fucking cam overlap. Quick spool valves is one Google search away, and you have miles of information. Do not work. Doesn't work. Show me the dyno. Show me the fucking dyno graph. No one? Okay, fuck off then. No quick spool valves, ever. They were made and constructed for 5-cylinder engines only in like the 80s. Right? Because a 5-cylinder engine you cannot fucking divide. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. No, you can't divide it. Okay? So use a quick spool valve on 605. If you have a journal bearing turbo, you know, from an old truck, do it. It will work because the technology is from that era in the 80s. Today, GTX 2863, bam, you have spool now, full boost. Before you think about it, everything is done. You don't need it. So the technology have catched up, you know. One Google search away. Quick spool valve. All right. Bye.